Okay, let's see what we got next. Kujima, why sing when you can warble? I saw a picture of some kind of bird thing on the key visual. I've not seen anybody talk about this. Maybe it's really weird in like a fun way. Let's find out.
Okay, that's definitely a weird one. I got 2 episodes into Kujima-san, Why Sing When You Can Warble, which is a lot further than I was expecting to make it, but ultimately I got to the end of the 2nd episode and I'm like, what am I watching this for other than to fill time? And that's not what this show's about. This show's not about filling time, because it's like I'll give it credit for not making this giant anthropomorphic bird thing an imaginary friend or something that only the main character can see. I've already forgotten what... Oh, Arata. That's the name of the main character, Arata. I've already... it's not something that only he can see. Everyone can see it. Everyone can interact with it. So that made the premise a little bit more interesting. But just a little. Because, he's not all that interesting a character. He's just kind of a weird bird thing who likes food. And as soon as I saw there was a giant bird mascot thing for this anime, I was like, okay, there's a spectrum from fun to Dera-chan from fucking, what's it called? Tamako Market. Where is this stupid bird thing gonna land? He's not quite at Dera levels, but he can be a kind of annoying. So, not the biggest fan of him, but I also don't hate him. Occasionally the show got a little bit of a chuckle out of me, but only occasionally. I could tell it's going to be sort of like a it's aiming for like a mild comedy / heartwarming kind of thing. And this is going to be like a character that brings the family together or whatever. Mostly the older brother, who is... I believe he's supposed to be like a Ronin. Like he's... Not even a Ronin, he just failed his entrance exams. And now he's just studying all day to take them again. Which, by the way, that's not going to work. Spending literally the entire day studying... That's not gonna help. Like, at all. What? Shouldn't you be going to, like, a cram school or something? Or maybe they don't allow cram schools for people who aren't in school? I don't know. Either way, it's not smart to just be studying the entire time. And all it does is turn him into a fucking grouch, which, yeah, obviously. It's not bad looking, but it's also not good looking. Occasionally it has some decent comedic cuts of Kujima, especially in the 2nd episode. But, what am I watching this for other than it's mildly pleasant and I don't hate it? I'm not looking for I don't hate it. I'm looking for, wow, this is really cool. I want to watch the next episode. And this is just kind of there. So, this would be like a strong Light 6 if I finished it, probably. So,
Okay, not enough of a fan of that. Kujima is off the list. Next, The Warrior Princess and the Barbaric King. This got a lot of hype when it was first announced, and then really not a lot afterwards. Which leads me to believe that it's probably a pretty messy production. But let's go ahead and give it a shot anyway.
Ugly, fucking ugly. Holy shit. This show makes the battles in Heroic Legend of Arslan look like fucking Freerun. Fuck, that's bad. The bad CG. See, so much CG soldiers. So much just PNGs drifting across the screen. It's, and bad. I don't give a fuck where this story goes. I know where it is going. It's a Stockholm Syndrome story. But boy, I do not fucking care. The character designs aren't even that good. Fuck ugly.
Okay, yeah, not doing that. Warrior Princess off the list. Next. 100 Scenes of Awajima. I know absolutely nothing about this other than that it's a drama. I don't know what it's a drama about, but I do know it's a drama. So let's find out what the drama is all about.
I'm getting a lot of style from this one, but the substance is, a bit superfluous. I got halfway through the first episode of 100 Scenes of Awajima, and one of the things that I really take note of when a show is first starting is when I get a main character and then someone else describes what that main character is like, but I don't actually see the main character acting like that. And this is definitely that show. Like, near the beginning of it, one of the new friends that this main character makes, describes her as carefree, and up to that point, I really could not describe the main character at all. Like, it takes a little bit to get going with this main character, with any. Well, actually, we get descriptions of we get characterization for side characters before we really get descriptions for the main character. Like the girl who didn't want to bathe with everyone else. That's an interesting personality thing. It's not whether it's a good one or not remains to be seen, but I don't really care to see. But we got that before I figured out anything about our main character. And you know what? The one thing that we got about the main character so far that's actually on screen, the idea that she's starstruck easily, that's a good one. I can relate to that. But boy, it's not. There's nothing engaging about this show. Does that make sense? It's clearly ramping up to be a very poignant, somewhat serious drama, very dry drama. That's what this show is. It sort of is. It's in the very honestly, it's what was I gonna say? Sorry, I'm a little tired, but it's gearing up to actually take some swings with its drama, but boy, the setup is super thin, and I really don't care about anybody, despite them having qualities that I can relate to. I can relate to being starstruck easily. Main character's roommate, getting into this school because she was going to go with a friend, and then that friend doesn't come with her. I can relate to that. But the characters themselves, I really just don't see any interest in at all. I should be interested in something by halfway through the first episode, but it's just not there. It's so very, very dry and contemplative, but without much to contemplate. It looks pretty solid. I'm not super into the character designs. They're a little too lacking in detail for me, but it's a very clean and polished show. I think this is, if I recall correctly, I think this is a Madhouse show, I think. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but it might be. And it's pretty solid looking. I really like some of the more artsy cuts. These very big artistic flourishes. It's edited pretty decently. It generally looks good, but I just don't really care about what I'm looking at.
Okay. Awajima off the list. Next. Petals of Reincarnation. I think this is another one of the High Dive ones that I'm not watching on High Dive. Don't know anything about it. Reincarnation usually means isekai. So let's see what happens.
Every few years, the anime industry decides to try and recreate Fate Stay Night in the weirdest ways. Also, I liked this one better when it was called Nobunagun. I got 2/3 through the first episode of Petals of Reincarnation. I'll give it credit. It's certainly trying something. It is certainly going for something, especially with the visuals. Really, really high contrast coloring, very deep saturation in like the reds and these deep greens and blue greens, teals, I guess. But also it goes overboard a lot. Like the petal effects around the neck are mostly just distracting. They don't look cool. It just looks weird. Also it tries to do action, but it's not good at doing action. The choreography's not great. Some of the attacks can be a little confusing sometimes. And really there's just not enough movement for it to be exciting. But honestly, my biggest problem with this series so far, aside from the overt edginess, I actually am fine with the overt edginess. I didn't cite Nobunagun for no reason earlier. There's none of the characters have a personality in this. Like, I got 2/3 through the first episode, and I could not describe any of the characters to you with, like, personality traits. I can tell you what they want. I can tell you what one character wants. The main guy just wants to have a talent because his brother had all of the talents, and that made his parents really dote on the older brother and just be perpetually disappointed in the younger brother. General Japanese hyper parental pressure to be someone, so on and so forth. You've seen it 1,000 times. Like, I could describe that to you, but I can't describe to you what this character is like. Like, I don't know what his personality is. And there's 2 other notable characters that have been introduced so far as well. And I don't know what their personalities are either, besides main girl and girl in the chair. So, like, I don't feel particularly invested in what they're doing. I don't care whether or not they succeed or not. Although I will say that the main guy seems to go off the deep end pretty quickly. Like literally the first time he uses his power, which is to steal stuff, he kills somebody by stealing all of the blood out of his body. Like, that's pretty fucking brutal. He did not seem like a homicidal person before. Also, now I'm just realizing this now. The whole premise of the show is like we have the people with the good talents trying to fight off the people with the bad talents who are using their talents for evil. And then the main character does that, and the main girl doesn't fucking bat an eye. What? This is bad.
Okay, another dud, unfortunately. Petals of Reincarnation off the list. Next, Magical Sisters Lulutto Lilly. This is a magical girl series from Studio Pierrot that, from what I've gathered, is like an old school magical girl series, like Creamy Mommy era stuff. It's also not streaming anywhere. I think actually it might be on Tubi, actually, which is a weird pull. But in any case, let's see if they're able to recapture the magic of that classical magical girl era.
This is one of those shows where I'm, like, actually disappointed that I don't like it as much as I wanted to. I got 3 episodes and some change into Lulutto Lilly. It is a fairly bland magical idol series, which is a shame because this is so very much molded in the image of classical magical girl series. Like, I'll get to it. I guess I'll get to it now. I skimmed through the first episode of Creamy Mommy for comparison, and this borders on being like a stealth remake of Creamy Mommy. Like, so many of the elements are extremely similar, and I only got that idea because they literally have a reference to Creamy Mommy in the first episode of Lulutto. Like, the big character in the background with the flowing, like, lavender-colored hair, that's supposed to be Creamy Mommy. And so, like, it is so obviously in the vein of those kind of shows like Creamy Mommy and Fancy Lala and stuff like that. And I just wish it was better. Because it's really not holding me on 2 fronts. One, it's a lot of fluff with not a lot of, like, hook to the narrative. It's very tame, very slow, and that could work. It could work as a slice of life series, but then on the other hand, it's not particularly impressive looking. I thought the first episode was pretty solid. Like, the purple and pink tones to everything were pretty solid. The nighttime scene was really nice when the aliens are first introduced and the spaceship and stuff. I thought that was handled pretty well. But subsequent episodes have just been very not as interesting looking, very flat, just very straightforward with color design and framing and stuff like that. Except for, I guess, the musical scenes, which, CG idol stuff. which I guess I should be used to at this point, but... And I will say, this is, like, on the better side, but also it's, like, good to the point where the minor imperfections, or the minor details that don't look as good really stick out. And so it's like very much Uncanny Valley kind of stuff at times. It reminds me a bit of Precure CG stuff, actually, like the some of that stuff, but with a little bit flatter color design to it. But yeah, those are really the only scenes with any pop to them after the first episode, from what I've seen, like episodes 2 and 3 and a little bit of 4. And so there's really not a whole lot here, I guess. That's a damn shame, because I do think shows like this should exist. Like, I skimmed through the first episode of Creamy Mommy. Didn't skim through any episodes, but that show actually looks really good. Like, it holds up. And I do think we should have shows with this kind of mindset and genre attempts now. I think there is a market for it if it's done well. But I just don't think Lulutto is done particularly well. And that's just kind of a shame.
Okay, Magical Sisters, Lulutto, Lilly coming off the list. That's a damn shame. I really wish I'd liked that more. But next is Snowball Earth. I have no clue what this one's actually about, but I've seen the manga advertised for this for a while now. So, I think the manga at least is popular. I haven't seen anybody watch the anime. So let's find out what this show is about.
That was fucking stupid. There is just so much stupid, dumb shit in this plot that I can't seriously engage with this story at all. So, okay, so let's just go over some of the shit. I got halfway through the first episode of Snowball Earth. It starts with, okay, so a scientist makes an autonomous robot that is essentially a giant bomb in order to blow up a kaiju. Why would you need a bomb for that? Or why would you need a robot for that? We have drones. We have literal bombs. We have missiles. Why would you need a robot to run at a kaiju and blow up? Let alone a robot with sufficient enough intelligence that it tries to have its own self-preservation. There's no fucking need for that. That's fucking stupid. And then, okay, so then the main scientist's kid climbs aboard this robot and starts to pilot it because Gundam. And one of his aides tells him that, and he's like, oh, don't worry, I only put the cockpit in for training purposes, so it's almost impossible to control. What the fuck does that mean, man? Why would... Training for what? If it's a autonomous robot whose only goal is to run at the enemy, why would you fucking put a cockpit in it? And what does only for training purposes mean? Could you not build a separate cockpit just mounted to the floor? What the fuck does that mean? And also, the main character's trait is that he is obscenely fucking shy and hates having people stare at him and is incredibly bad at social interactions. And that does not change over the 10 years that he is put in the limelight as the savior of humanity and is constantly putting his body in harm's way and is constantly having to interact with the media, presumably, and interact with other adults. That's not how humans work. 10 years? You would fucking... I think it was 10 years. It's nearly... If it's not 10 years, it's nearly a decade. Over that time, you would just learn. Like, especially if you're forced to learn. That's how humans are. We adapt to things. Oh my fucking god. This show is so stupid. I should have turned it off when I saw the CG kaiju, but I was like, you know what? Gridman did CG kaiju. I will allow kaiju specifically to be CG. Because sometimes the rubber suit aesthetic makes them look better. And you know what? The CG's not horrible. It's not good. But it's not horrible. But boy, this plot is fucking stupid.
Okay, I've had just about enough of that. Snowball Earth, off the list. Next, Fist of the North Star. Oh boy, and this is a remake. A CG remake, I believe. Fun fact, this is one of like 5 anime on this list where I have read part of the manga and then dropped it at some point. Like, I think I got like about 2 volumes into the manga and I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me. But maybe I'll go back and watch the original series at some point. Or maybe this one will be shockingly good. Maybe. Will it?
Nope. Still bad. Still very, very bad. I got 5 minutes into this Fist of the North Star remake. I got up to the point where the guy's head explodes, like, on screen. And it just looked like really dumb, bad blood CG. I mean, I guess I'll give it credit for looking better than Fist of the Blue Sky, which was a prequel CG series from a decade ago. Because that looked really, really bad. This just looks really bad. Yeah. Because it's like, I've read a couple volumes of the manga, and the art's actually really good in that. That's the one thing I will, like, as much as I didn't really care for the manga, it had fucking great art in it. And that art does not translate to CG very well. I don't know why they keep making this in CG. Why? What is the logic here? I mean, there has to be enough people watching it for them to keep doing this bullshit. So shame on them. But for fuck's sake, it looks bad. The color design sucks shit. The way the mouth movements are janky as fuck. Frame rate's way too high. It's all bad. It's all bad. It's gross. It sucks. I should have turned it off before the OP, because even the opening flash forward sequence to Kenshiro's fight with whatever the fuck's name, that didn't look good either. But I was just like, I got curious. I was like, I'm just curious. I'm not interested, but I'm curious. Let's see what it actually looks like once it gets into it. And I didn't even get to Kenshiro's like proper introduction. That's how bad it looks. It's all poop.
Alright, fuck you. Get this fucking bullshit off the list. Come on, off the list. Okay. Another end cap. Wistoria Wand and Sword Season 2. This was the My Hero, but it's a magic school anime. I liked the first season quite a bit. I don't really remember a whole lot about it, but I'm sure I'll remember once the second season starts. So, hopefully, it's just as good.
Alright, another season of Wistoria in the bag, with another one on the way already, which I will definitely be tuning into, but I will say this was not as smooth a ride as I was hoping for. Definitely not as smooth a ride as Season 1, in my opinion. Right out the gate, I do want to say that I encountered some major technical issues as I was doing my watch through of this, in that my internet went out for almost the whole week, and I did not want to watch an action fantasy series on my phone. So it's been a hot minute. Like, it went out halfway through the second to last episode, so hell of a blue balls for me in terms of not getting to see the end of the fight between Zeo and Elfie until just now, which was awesome, by the way. Great fight. But so that means my thoughts are probably going to be a bit scattered, a little bit more hazy, because it's been a week since I've watched some of this content. So I'm going to do the best that I can. We'll start with the first half of this, since that's the first half of the season, since that's the least, or since that's the most hazy in my mind. And it's also the parts where I was most disappointed in it, I guess. There's nothing that says that you have to do like a slow ramp up to the disaster scenario. However, there is a reason that there is a power creep to certain things, I guess I should say. What am I trying to get at here? The power creep turns into a power sprint far too quickly for my liking in this. Like, I posted it on Twitter, but essentially, like, there is an inverse correlation between how much I like a shonen action series and how quickly it becomes Dragon Ball Z. Because, like, even Dragon Ball Z, it took 150-something episodes to get to the Saiyans, and then it took another 90 to get to Super Saiyans. Obviously, there's a lot of filler in there, but even if, let's say it's half filler for the sake of argument. It's not, but let's say that it's half filler. That's still like 75 episodes before you get to the space monkey Spartans, and then like 240, like 120 episodes before you get to Super Saiyan. And this show gets to at least Saiyan level stuff by the time this invasion starts in the city. And the power difference from Season 1 to Season 2 is enormous. Now, granted, it's been a hot minute since I watched Season 1. In fact, I actually went out of my way to watch the recap episode that aired right before this season started, because I was like, you know what? I could use a refresher on everything that happened in Season 1. And I watched it, and I got to the end of it, and I'm like, that didn't help at all. It was not a good recap episode, actually, because all of the details that I wanted were not there. I don't remember what details I was looking for, but I remember they weren't there. So yeah, we had this big, we have a big city invasion thing. To go with the My Hero metaphor of it all, this is the somewhat analogous to the Liberation War part, although there is no fallout from it like it is in My Hero. Also, this is not going to be the end of the My Hero comparisons in this, because, as I mentioned in the previous season, this show has a lot of My Hero DNA in it, and that doesn't stop. But, where was I going with this metaphor? I don't remember. So, big city wrecking punch-ups, slightly bloodier than My Hero as well. This one's a little bit, I hesitate to use the word, but it's a little bit edgier. It's a little bit more, slightly more graphic, just ever so slightly. And we get at least one major character death. Maybe? Rusty dies early on in this season. Or so it appears. He kind of just, like, disappears into dust. Like, as soon as that happened, immediately I was like, well, why did that happen? Why did he, like, turn into dust? Or, like, sparkly particles instead of just die like all the other people seem to do. And then, like, once everything has settled down, we see him, like, sitting on top of a bell tower or something. So I'm like, okay, I guess he's not dead. And there's some mystery about him. And then Werkner Sensei also almost dies right in front of Will as well. But he, like, heals up almost right away. So you've introduced two undying characters, and you haven't answered the question as to why they are undying. But they seem like different kinds of undying. So that's a lot to take in all at once. It's a little bit too much mystery right up at front, but it is, I guess, something that I'm looking for. Honestly, it's not something I super care about, but it will be a mystery to be explored, I guess. But yeah, this was, and then, Will finally unlocked the one magic thing that he can do, apparently, which is, as I alluded to, go Super Saiyan. Like, literally fucking Super Saiyan 3, his hair lightens up and grows, and so then he starts, like, zooping all around the city, and the name, I forget who's talking to him in the moment when he does this, but they say, like, the name of the spell that he is using is courage. I believe the Japanese word is yuki, which, alright, that gives me some insight into how certain characters are named now. But, anyway, the name of the spell is courage, and I started having Soul Eater flashbacks. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, Soul Eater has an anime original ending. And the finale to that basically has that in it. And it's not good. It's better than the Full Metal Alchemist original ending, but it's still not a good original ending. Like, Bones has done quite a few original endings for stuff. FMA, Soul Eater. I think Oron had a slight anime original ending, I think. I'm not entirely sure about that one, but it might have. But in any case, I got Soul Eater flashbacks, but not in a good way. It was, to quote Dan Olson, cringe. There's no other way to describe it. It's just cringe. It's embarrassing. And so I was really not, aside from the really strong action animation, which is still here, and there's still a pretty decent chunk of it, aside from that, I really was not vibing that much with the first season. But the thing that really kept me going, especially once it came around again in the second half, is the Will and Elfie show. Like, I've mentioned this many times before on the seasonal wrap-up show. I'm going to mention it again in the Yozakura segment, because I actually filmed that segment in the middle of me not having internet, because that's the only thing that I downloaded to watch. But we'll get to that in the next video, or the video after that. I'm not sure. We'll find out later. But shonen action series with a major romance plot in it is my ideal anime. And so the Will and Elfie stuff really takes center stage as the emotional core of Wistoria, especially in season 2. And it's good. It's really good, actually. Like, they have great chemistry. We get to explore their backstory together, and it's really good. It shows not just how they grew to be so attached to each other, but also why Elfie thinks so highly of Will. Like, we see a flash, like a sort of, like a pensieve of sorts, a pensieve spell of sorts, where Will is shown his past with Elfie and the first time that he unlocked his power. Because, yeah, there's a bunch of Harry Potter in this, too, if you couldn't figure out. All magic school anime have some Harry Potter in their veins. It's unavoidable. But, yeah. That's... I do wonder if that is simply because they are responding directly to Harry Potter, or they are responding to other works that responded to Harry Potter, or they are responding to the things that Harry Potter was steeped in. That's an interesting question to think about, actually. I love exploring the roots of stuff like that. I am a database animal, after all. I'm going to use that word correctly. I think I'm using that word correctly. Joe, please tell me if I'm... Joe's not watching this. He doesn't give a fuck. But, yeah. This is, What, I got distracted again. Yes, the Will and Elfie stuff is very good. And also, like, because I also had to go back and rewatch my seasonal wrap-up show entry for this series, briefly, but, and as I mentioned in that one, Elfie actually does have, like, a personality. She's not just hot lady in a tower that Will is pursuing. She's, like, obsessed with Will, and she gets, like, very pouty and cryy when she doesn't get her way revolving around Will. Like, she just straight up says, like, when Zeo tries to take him as a member of the lightning school, once Will finally gets into the tower, Elfie's like, I will fucking fight you to the death over this shit. Which led to probably my favorite fight of this season, of the series, probably. Just because it is so intense and action-packed. The Zeo-Elfie fight is really fucking good. At least, I don't remember a lot from Season 1, but it's at least as good as the tournament, any battle from the tournament stuff. Probably better. Speaking of which, I mentioned in the first season of this that there was a Bakugo-type character to Will's Deku. And in the first few episodes of Season 2, I forgot which character that was, because Julius and Sion both act very similarly in the first couple episodes of this series, so I had forgotten, like, wait, which one's the Bakugo character? And I thought it was Julius at first, but then I went back and watched my own content, and it was like, oh, Sion was the Bakugo character, because he's the flame guy. Duh. And also bullied Will a lot. Duh. So I had just completely forgotten that. So that's definitely a problem with... That's a bit of an issue with Season 2, is a lot of the characters that we focused so heavily on in Season 1 are getting pushed to the wayside right away. Like, with the exception of Julius, who gets a weird incel arc in this. Let's talk about that right away. Like, the reason he's like a snobbish, noble prick about stuff is apparently when he was younger, he fell in love with a maid who worked at his mansion. And she told him that she loves the kind side of his personality. Like, he rescues, like, either a bird or a kitten or something, and, like, she praises him for that. And Julius thinks that that's her, like, falling in love with him, I guess. But then she gets married to someone her age while he's still, like, 10 or 12. And immediately that turns him into, like, a kindness gets you nowhere. It's the only thing. It's worthless. I will suppress this kind side of me because it does me no good. And we don't circle back to that ever. So presumably he's still kind of an incel. I don't know if the arc was supposed to be wrapped with him helping Will out, but it didn't feel like it got concluded. So that's weird. In any case, everyone else from the first season mostly gets pushed aside, like Sion and Wignall, Liz. I'm struggling to even remember these characters' names. And except for Colette, who I don't think I mentioned her that much in the first season, but I am really starting to get annoyed by her in this second season. Whereas Elfie is a love interest that has, like, depth to her personality and, like, motivation and stuff. Well, not motivation, but, like, is an interesting character, not just in her relation to Will, but as a character on her own. Colette is just a hanger-on. She is an orbiter. To use the fucking... I guess to use the incel terminology, she is an orbiter of Will, but... And, she's just annoying. Like, the entirety of her personality is wanting to be with Will, but because she is very obviously not winning the Will harem contest, because it is a harem at this point. We got Elfie, we got Colette, we got the one Watcher girl apparently has a crush on him. Rusty is still in love with him, I think, but he's also some kind of weird magical being. Maybe. I don't know. So Will's got at least 4 love interests. I'm calling that a harem. And Colette is very much not at the top of the harem. She is not at the top of the pecking order for this. I don't think she's ever going to be. So she's just kind of annoying at this point. If the manga goes in that direction, I'm probably going to be very annoyed. Is this a manga? I think it's a manga. It's not a light novel, right? This is probably a manga. I have to assume this is a manga. Maybe? I could have sworn... See, now I'm doubting myself. And I don't have my phone on me to say one way or the other. But anyway, we're talking far too long about this. Anyway, post-credit scene for the final... Oh, actually, before we get to that, I did... Yes, for all of the flaws I had with the first half of the season, the Will Elfie stuff really carried it, especially in the second half. I loved their little meet-up outside of the tower with the big ice staircase and stuff in the swing set. It was extremely cute. I'm a sucker for action rom-coms. We need more good ones. But anyway, post-credit scene. Just in case it wasn't My Hero enough, we get a traitor arc. Hell yeah! Because someone in the tower has to have been the one to allow the enemies to infiltrate the city with their Nomu copies. So now the new ascendants to the tower are tasked with rooting out who the traitor is. So we get a traitor arc I highly doubt that it's going to be the same as the Trader arc in My Hero, but who knows? We'll see, because I will be sticking around for season 2. Despite all the ragging on it I did really like it. Will is still a very compelling character. The action's still really solid. I will say, I noticed the back half of episode 12, like the first few minutes of the B part, someone was really having fun with perspective and facial animation and stuff. It was fun to see that. But yeah, the show's still, I will say it's not what's the word I'm looking for? The cinematography is a little bit too flat sometimes, and a little bit awkward occasionally in between the really cool action cuts, but not anything like wholly distracting. So yeah, Wistoria is still good. I'm not as hot on it as season 1, but it's still good.
Okay, Wistoria season 2 is complete, and I'm still torn on where exactly I want to put this. Fuck it. Yeah, you're gonna go right in there in the number 16 spot with a decent 7. A lot of rough patches in this one. Oh, I completely forgot to talk about how the wand and sword thing. Okay, so like in the first season, it's like, Will provides the sword, and then the other characters are the wand, and it's supposed to be like a cooperation kind of thing. Like you can only get somewhere by combining your skills that are unique to you or that you specialize in, and that's how we make things better. And then in season 2, it's like, oh no, he's the wand and the sword at the same time. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So, yeah, still fun, but definitely a disappointment compared to season 1.